No, she's supposed to be. And I don't see Danielle either. I hear the elevator.
Tracy, you ready?
I'm
Good-
ready when you
good
are,
to go?
Mayor.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the study session meeting of June 26, 2024 to order. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb.
Here. Thank you.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory. We'll wait for Mayor Pro Tem Ross to get up to her seat. Mayor Pro Tem Ross.
Here.
Mayor Carnevale.
Here. Thank you. Mr. City Manager, will you please explain the interview process for this afternoon?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be happy to. In the interest of fairness, we do a blind number draw that determines the order that the candidates will go in. I don't know that there's any advantage to being first, second, or third, but that way it's all up and above board. So the names right now are in alphabetical order, and when they come up on the screen, we'll put those on numerical order, and I will explain that at the time. We have two candidates for Finance Advisory Committee. I was going to go first with them, and we have only one candidate here for that. We have 6 candidates for Palm Springs International Airport Commission, and I see 4 of them here right now. So I will go ahead with Finance Advisory Committee. We don't need to do the random number draw. At this point, you only have one candidate. So if Ruth, you can go first, just come up to the podium. The council members have prepared questions for you. They'll each ask one, and then at the end likely ask if you have anything else you want to say. So.
Hello, Ruth. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your interest in the Finance Advisory Committee. Please tell the council a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this committee.
I've been working in finance my whole life. I've been working for the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians for 29 years in various positions. The last one, since 2013, I am the tribal controller. Before that, I worked at the Rancho Mirage Casino as the accounting manager for about 7 years. And before that, I worked in various positions from budget analyst, financial supervisor, and accounting manager at the Palm Springs Casino.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
That sounds great. I'm really glad that you're stretching out and trying something outside the tribe. So this is going to be great. So as the Finance Advisory Committee, they only meet about once a year. Is that going to be okay with you? I mean, I know it's not going to stress your time, but is it going to bum you out that it's too short of a time? Or because we don't meet very frequently.
I don't mind that at all.
Perfect.
I actually served in the committee before. This would be actually my 3rd term. And the reason I joined originally back in, I don't remember when it was a while back, was because I wanted to be more involved in the city that I live. I am from District 5, and I wanted to learn about, the state of the city, and I found it very valuable in being able to understand the decisions the council makes, as well as, advocate for our city and their decisions with the people from our city that have or may have questions. So I feel more prepared and more knowledgeable at this time from what I've learned in my last few terms serving in the Financial Advisory Committee.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and you are the only person, so I'm going on to our next person.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ruth.
Hello.
One of the roles of the Finance Advisory Committee is to provide oversight on the funds raised through tax measures. Why do you think it's important to have such a citizens' oversight?
For accountability, I think it's important to have accountability to our citizens, whether it's the city or membership. We have to be, what is the word that I'm looking for? We have to be able to be accountable and have, the word that escapes me, my apologies. I am an accountant, so I don't prefer to be in front of people. I like to be in the back end. But it is important that we are kept accountable and that we have good backup and reasoning and supporting documents that can be viewed or reviewed by whether it's citizenship or any other agency, internal or external.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Councilman Gregory.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for your continued interest and for all the work that you've done so far. So since you've been on the committee, you know it really looks at just one source of revenues and a set of expenditures to make sure that they match within what was allowed. But I was wondering if you would mind kind of sharing your knowledge about other revenues that are important to the city.
Well, I believe that there are opportunities. The committee has not been given, direction to expand our, influence or our scope of what we do. I think the last two committees were, or the last meetings we've had, because we don't meet often, were kind of small in people that attended. But I do believe that there are more opportunities for revenue growth, not only by educating the people, also through the the measures that did not pass. Well, it passed, but not fully passed last time. But also just driving around our city. For example, I've noticed there's a lot of what I call code violations that are not being addressed. I remember back, I've been a citizen of Cathedral City for 30 years, so back in the days, if my grass was not pretty, I would get a ticket. And I drive by neighborhoods in my panorama area, note that it's not mine, in our panorama area that are honestly sad. Whether it's the grass, the way the house looks, trash cans, cars parked on the grass, and I think they are, of course, maybe not a lot in volume, but it would help not only bring more money to the city, but also make our city more presentable.
So you see fines as a source of revenue?
Well, that would be one thing. But it's something that used to happen. I know I paid a few back in the days, and we don't have those anymore.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes, thank you, Ruth, for, and I want to acknowledge all the folks that are interviewing today, taking the time out of their day to step up to the plate for Cathedral City. I really appreciate that. Ruth, in line with just what you were talking about, one of the city's challenges is that demand for services from the community often exceeds our ability to pay for such services. What suggestions do you have for us to meet that challenge? Thank you. Anything that you've seen?
Well, every time we as citizens need more help, there is fees associated with, and I know that we need to grow. And, one of the reasons why I'm here is because I want to continue to learn about what the city is doing, but also find those opportunities that at this time I yet have not found. I know that from our last meeting, there have been some decreases in revenue. And, we wanted, and it was brought on our last meeting, should we be meeting more often so that we can find better opportunities for the city? By meeting only once a year, which is what has happened in the last 2 terms, I'm going to be honest, it's not like we've learned so much with once a year meetings. But we are hoping, the people that were present at our last meeting, that this can be done more often so that we can find better ways that the city can increase revenue. And also, as a citizen, I don't mind giving more or paying more for a permit or a fee of some sort in order to be able to get the services that we need.
Ruth, thank you so much for the willingness to apply for this application. Is there anything else you'd like to tell this council for your willingness to be on this commission?
I'm here to serve, and, I value your opinion and I respect your decision. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Danielle, welcome.
Hi, nice to see you all. Thank
Hi.
you so much for this opportunity to apply.
You bet. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
Danielle, thank you for your interest in the Finance Advisory Committee. Please tell the council a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this committee.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been living in Cathedral City now for 3 years. Been trying to get more involved. And I was a big proponent of the measure last year to raise the property taxes to pay for a DRD and more recreation and a community center. And I'm sad to see that didn't pass, but I understand why people were hesitant to raise taxes during a time when inflation was high and people had a lot of other expenses. So I am interested in trying to help the city find other ways to pay for the services that I think a growing city needs. I was the president of my HOA board in Los Angeles, and we often had to look at, when I became president, we were not bringing in nearly as much money as we needed to pay the bills. So we had to look at what we could cut. We did end up cutting some services, which didn't make everyone happy, but I think a lot of it is transparency and education, showing people what money is coming in, where the money is being spent, allowing for public feedback, constituent feedback, so that they can help prioritize. I think what the city is doing right now with that survey is a great start.
I think you've answered about everyone's question.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
So why don't we just move on?
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
go ahead.
We just want to know more about yourself. Some of us here do know you. And so, Councilmember Ross, Mayor Pro Tem Ross. Hey, whatever.
Just not make today. So my questions are very simple one, and you actually may have heard it. With the advisory committee only meeting once a year, obviously it's not a time restraint, but is it something that would keep you interested?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, I try to watch the council meetings from home and try to stay up to date on, I think what people are saying, what people's concerns are. I'm a big believer in transparency and education, and so I think even if we only meet once a year, I would love to be able to take some of that opportunity to maybe suggest some ideas for how we can get more information out to the public, so that over the course of that year, in between meetings, maybe, residents have a better, get to know the budget better, get to know where their tax dollars are going. So I think there's a lot we can do even in just that one meeting. It would be great to meet more often, though.
Thank you so much.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Danielle.
Hello.
One of the roles of the Finance Advisory Committee is to provide oversight on the funds raised through tax measures. Why do you think it's important to have such citizens' oversight?
One, for accountability, and two, the city acts as a steward for our tax dollars. I think it's important to build trust and to make sure that people understand where their tax dollars are going, and if they don't feel like they are getting as much out of their tax dollars as they would like to see, for them to have that information and that transparency so that they can either vote a different way or propose things to the city, or maybe understand just generally better what the city's priorities are and give feedback on that. But ultimately, we are responsible for making sure that their tax dollars are spent well and spent in a way that they support as the community that the city represents.
Thank you.
Councilman Gregory.
All right, hi Danielle.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming and
Of
for
course.
your interest. So the question I have is kind of throws people, because it's not, this committee looks at a certain tax measure and the revenue and the expenditures. But I wanted to test your knowledge and see your awareness of what are the other important revenue sources for the city.
Sure. So property tax, obviously, and sales tax being the two primary ones. It's my understanding, based on what I've read, that we don't get as much property tax as many of our neighboring cities, and so it is a little bit of a challenge to put as much money into some of the services that maybe we see our neighboring cities have. But obviously that is a source of revenue that can be leveraged. Does
All
that
right.
answer your question?
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynn.
Great. And welcome, and thank you so
Thank
much. One of the city's challenges is that the demand for services from the community often exceeds our ability to pay for such services. What suggestions do you have for us to meet that challenge?
So one, I think education is a big part of it, helping people understand where the money, how much money the city takes in, where that money is going now. I think twice a year the city puts out a little booklet with lots of city services and who to call for trash pickup and bulky items and all that sort of thing. I think it would be great to have a kind of a 2-page spread in there that was kind of like a breakdown of your city budget that was very easy to understand for regular people. So I think education is a component so that people have realistic expectations of the services that they're asking for the city for. I also think some services can maybe not fully pay for themselves, but can pay for part of their cost, such as if we wanted to improve Panorama Park and we could start up some sort of, small little league there, charge money to use the fields for the teams, and then take that money, put it back into maintaining the baseball field. So I think sometimes there are ways that you can charge to use certain city services that then that money could help pay for them in the long run.
Danielle, thank you for participating in this interview for this application. Is there anything else you'd like to mention to this council to consider for your application?
No, I don't think so. You guys asked great questions. So I
Okay.
feel like I said everything I wanted to say.
Thank you
so
very much. Now, that's going to be the last of the interviews for the Finance Advisory Committee. And these appointments will be made later this evening during the regular meeting. So now we're going to be moving on to, what do we got here?
Palm Springs International Airport Commission, and I will do the blind number draw right now. On the sheet, they're in alphabetical order. So Gary Amy is 1, Jamie Lecklitter is 2, Christopher Lewis is 3, Robert Mata is 4, Christian Samlaska is 5, and Donald Vickers is 6. And when I run this, if I've got everything set up right, okay, so number 5 will be first, that's Christian. Number 6 will be second, that's Donald. Number 3 will remain number 3, that would be Christopher. Number 4 is number 2, that's Jimmy. Number 4 is 5th, that's Robert Mata.
I think you've already given us the 4, didn't you?
And then
No,
the last one will be number 1,
Robert Mata's 5.
Gary.
And Gary 6?
Yeah. Did you get that?
6, 4, 3, 5, 1, 2? Is that what everybody has? We got it.
Okay, you got it?
Got it,
Okay.
sir.
So our first one will be Christian, and you can come up to the podium, and you just saw what the other ones did, so it's going to be a similar routine.
Hi,
Good
Christian.
afternoon.
Thank you for your interest in the Palm Springs International Airport Commission. Please tell the council a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in serving, and what makes you a good candidate for the Palm Springs International Airport Commission.
All right. Well, thank you again for the time to speak with you this afternoon. A little bit about myself. I am starting, I think, today, my 40th year of being involved in aviation. Since I left college, I have moved directly into aviation. I worked for a couple of different airlines and leadership positions over the years, about half of the time that I've been involved in aviation. I worked for a large CADX airport running the security at that airport for about 15 years. I currently work for a global integrator, security integrator, and my role in that is the global leader for aviation. So we have currently just over 100 airports that I'm overseeing, and 7 airlines and the ground handlers that serve those airlines in those airports.
Wow, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
And in your spare time. Thank you so much. Do you have any previous experience on an advisory board in either government, nonprofit, or corporate setting?
Yeah, I served on the board of directors for National Safe Skies Alliance for 4 years. And I also served, when I lived in a small town in Wisconsin, I served on the planning commission in that role in that town.
Thank you.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, why do you believe the Palm Springs Airport is important to Cathedral City?
Oh. It's obviously a major economic driver engine for the area. Commerce flows in and out of an airport, and specifically in this community, tourism is a huge impact to the airport. And I think it's a place where I think we do a great job in the Coachella Valley, Palm Springs, Cathedral City of driving that traffic. I don't know that we always do such a good job of delivering on the customer service end of that, and I don't think it's any fault of anything specific. I just think that the opportunities to grow haven't kept up with the demand, and I think that there are significant opportunities that we can enhance through a variety of methods that will make that more equal when we're talking about the customer service level and the and when I speak of customer service, I don't mean just things that are nice in an airport. I think it also means service, how much service we have available at the airport.
Thank you. Councilmember Gregory.
Thank you so much for coming and for your interest.
Absolutely.
So my question has to do with dealing with conflict. So the airport board has members from a variety of different interests, somewhat heavily weighted to Palm Springs. It is in Palm Springs, but we would expect that there would be times that not all those interests are going to agree. So when you do have a disagreement amongst the group, how would you handle getting to the satisfactory conclusion that we need?
Well, I think the first step is understanding what the problem is and what the potential solutions are. That means listening to what everybody's, it isn't just what's good for one portion of the community, understanding really what the problem is and what the potential solutions are. And then, most of the time when you have to deal with that, it's a consortium, figuring out what works and then come to a consensus over, even if you don't win every single time, it's important to be pragmatic about how we come to our decision and understand what the impact is overall. Sometimes I think we learn more by listening to why somebody thinks we shouldn't have something and getting that feedback and understanding why they think they should. It kind of levels the playing field a little bit more.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Gutierrez? No?
It's out of order on there.
Councilmember Lamb.
Great, thank you so much. And if you are appointed to the Airport Commission, you will be Cathedral City's representative. Do you think Cathedral City's interests related to the airport are different than the other cities' interests? And you've been here, is it 4 years?
4 years
Okay.
I've been here, yes.
I did this automatically. I'm a former teacher, so.
That was good.
That was a clue.
Yeah, and this is actually the second time I've come before you
That's
for
right.
this position.
Thank you.
Yes, I think they can be different, to answer your question. And that's because when we look at the proximity, when we look at you know, I know there are people who serve on the commission all over the Coachella Valley and in Riverside County. And I think that our proximity to the airport, our opportunities for how we can gain things, how Cathedral City can gain revenues and ideas from the airport because of the proximity makes it a bit different. I think impacts, environmental impacts and noise impacts, I think make a bit of a difference for the citizens of Cathedral City. So yeah, I think it is different.
Christian, thank you for participating in the interview and your willingness to serve. Is there anything you'd like to add to this council?
Yeah, I think that this is an exciting time. You know, with the master plan out there, I think that that's a ways away. I utilize this airport whenever I can, and I see some things that when I walk through, I think this would be nice if we address these things. So this is my opportunity to at least give it a shot. And I have, in my previous capacity, worked in capital improvement projects at an airport. I oversaw $50 million worth of capital improvement projects at that airport. I understand how things work, like grant funding and those, and I hope that I have an opportunity to apply my knowledge into this role.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Donald Vickers?
Mayor,
What?
can I ask a question for
Yeah,
City Manager?
sure.
City Manager? So in the past, if we had multiple people applying for a position, we'd leave one outside so that they didn't overhear good ideas from other people. I'm going to just cut to the chase. That's probably what we thought. But we're not doing that this time?
The last time we did it with everybody in there because it speeds things up, and we experienced the person still has to come up with a coherent answer, whether they have heard somebody else do it or not, and we found that it didn't make a difference. So that's.
And the we was who?
Tracy and I talked about it afterwards.
Thank you.
So Donald Vickers?
I don't believe he is here.
Cross him off the list. There we go. That's a joke. Christopher Lewis. Give me 1 second, Christopher. Good to go. Thank you. Thank you for your interest in the Palm Springs International Airport Commission. Please tell the council a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in serving, and what makes you a good candidate.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. My name is Chris Lewis. I'm fairly recent as a resident to Cathedral City. I retired 3 years ago as a police sergeant from Seattle. I was employed by the Port of Seattle Police Department. So our main jurisdiction was SeaTac Airport, the surrounding communities, and the majority of the waterfront in downtown Seattle. So most of my law enforcement career has been around aviation. I served in multiple different special assignments there, explosive bomb detection handler, that kind of thing. But most of it was geared around the airport itself. Prior to that, I spent a few years working at commercial airlines when I was living in Honolulu. And so I've experience with the operations of commercial airlines as well as the government agency of the Port of Seattle and working for them at SeaTac Airport. As far as being the reason I want to do this is my professional life has been geared to public service, and I wanted to continue that as a resident here. And I think it's important when you move into a new community that you try to put yourself out there and serve your community. When I retired, I tried to do that through a nonprofit organization here, with Guide Dogs of the Desert. I trained or helped train service animals for law enforcement firefighters as support animals. So I did that for a short time. And currently I'm working at the Living Out facility, the LGBT plus facility in Palm Springs. So I try to give back to the community whenever I can.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much. So what experience do you have serving on advisory boards like this? You said nonprofit you've already done. Have you done anything governmental or in corporate settings?
Not in the corporate sense. Part of my role as a police sergeant at the Port of Seattle Police Department was sometimes as an advisory capacity with the explosion of construction that they're having at the airport. I was asked to be part of different advisory committees. One would be Safety Security Committee for the development of a new concourse. So I did that for a short time. Implementation of an airport-wide camera system through a large TSA grant, so I was part of that as well. But that's about the extent of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Gregory.
I get to go first. Good afternoon, Chris, and thank you so much for coming and for your interest in this commission. So my question has to do with resolving conflict within the group. The Airport Commission has a number of different parties that are of interest, somewhat weighted to Palm Springs. The airport is in Palm Springs. There may not be agreement all the time. So how would you handle disagreements and come to a satisfactory conclusion?
I think resolving conflict is basically getting everybody into the room and discussing what each other's opinions are. As an advisory council to the city council, I think it's important to resolve conflict by bringing in the subject matter experts. So for instance, if we're talking about the master plan, bring in, the airport executives or the construction people to delve into what that specific conflict is and get the facts instead of the feelings out. And then after that, try and come to a consensus with the group to form one plan to give to the city council.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. Why do you believe the Palm Springs Airport is important to Cathedral City?
I think the importance of the airport is, for a city like Cathedral City, for one, is employment. The airport offers not just employment for the facility itself, but all the ancillary, the rental cars, the hiring of extra law enforcement, they're going to open up Customs and Border Patrol, so we'll have more people to work in those positions. So it's a big driver of good-paying jobs. It's a driver for economic development, commerce, that type of thing that I think being the proximity with Palm Springs really affects the growth and the economy of our city.
Thank you.
Hi, Christopher, and welcome full-time to our community.
Thank you.
If you are appointed to the Airport Commission, you will be Cathedral City's representative. Do you think Cathedral City's interests related to the airport are different than other cities' interests?
I think there are slight differences in our interests, but overall it's the same. We benefit from the airport, and we also, depending how the traffic mitigation plan works out, could also be bearing the brunt of some of that growth. But I do believe that our interests as far as traffic, even air traffic, could be a little different than the communities around where the airport is in Palm Springs. But overall, I feel that our interest is not any less than the city of Palm Springs.
Thank you for participating in this process. Is there anything you'd like to add to the commission or the committee?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to possibly serve the community of Cathedral City now that I'm here full time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jimmy? Oh, was it going to be challenged on your last name? Lickler? Lecklater? Okay. I said I'm going to go for it anyway.
It's good. No worries. Thanks. I appreciate flexibility today. I'll
ask you a question.
Sure.
If you like. Are you ready to go?
I am.
All right. Thank you for your interest in the Palm Springs International Airport Commission. Please tell us, the council, a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in serving, and what makes you a good candidate for the commission.
Well, my name is Jim Lecklater, or Jimmy is my legal name. I've been in Cathedral City 6.5 years. I brought property here, so this is my home. I have previous experience working on the Human Rights Commission from Salina, Kansas, where I'm from. And I'm at a point, I'd say in my personal and professional career, I want to get back into government setting. I have once been a volunteer for the mayor in West Hollywood, Jeff Prang. I helped him out for several years in his office. So I'm familiar with some city doings. But who better to serve on this commission than a former flight attendant? I used to fly for America West, US Air, now American, for 10 years. And so I'm very familiar with airports, what works, what doesn't work, flying around the country and the world. But I also think Palm Springs has a very unique airport, and that uniqueness is very, I think, vital to its success. I listen and I read a lot of social media to see what people like, what people don't like, and I wish I could remember his name. But he said that Palm Springs was his favorite airport because it's outside. And I've been around the world, and I can't think of any other airport that's as special as the Palm Springs Airport. So sitting on this commission takes me back to a lot of places where giving back to my community is important. I do that as a nurse as well. I'm also an educator, so I give back to our future, but I'd like to give back to our community as a member on the commission if possible.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh, I'm sorry. You said Mayor Pro Tem, that was the last Mayor Pro Tem. Sometimes we still do that, don't we? He used to be Mayor Pro Tem. Do you have any previous experience serving on an advisory board, either in the government, nonprofit, or corporate setting? And I know you covered a little bit of that.
It's okay. So I have sat on the Human Relations Commission in Salina, Kansas. I also serve as a board member for an organization nationally and locally called the Association of Nurses in AIDS Care. And we are often sought out by medical organizations for recommendations as far as nursing care and standards of care for nursing for patients with certain infectious diseases. So I serve on those levels.
Councilmember Gregory.
Hi, Jim. Thank you so much for applying for your interest in this commission. So my question has to do with conflict within the group, resolving conflict. So the Airport Commission has a number of interests on it, different members from government and outside government, heavily weighted towards Palm Springs. The airport is in Palm Springs. But we wouldn't necessarily expect everyone to agree on every issue. So how would you go about reaching a satisfactory conclusion when there's disagreement?
If you really look at most disagreements, there's always some kind of commonality. So for me, I like to focus on what do we have in common that maybe we all do agree on. Maybe not focus so much on what we don't, but let's focus on what we do agree on, and let's work from that piece out. Because if you keep, in my mind, working on the negative, you just keep getting farther and farther down that rabbit hole. But there's a consensus. At some point, there was a consensus. Let's go back to that consensus and start working out from that. And typically, the disagreement works itself out.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Jimmy.
Hey.
Why do you believe that the Palm Springs Airport is important to Cathedral City?
I think there's an opportunity for a lot of community growth. Though it's physically located in Palm Springs, we can look at any airport in the country, and not every city can have its own airport. But there's an advantage to being Palm Springs adjacent. We offer a lot of things that I say Palm Springs doesn't. I chose Cathedral City because there isn't a lot of traffic here. There are a lot of locally owned mom and dad places. So if I'm traveling to a city, I don't want to go to a chain restaurant that I can have in my home. I can go to a nice local place in Cathedral City. I think there's an opportunity for some maybe shared marketing to promote Cathedral City within the airport to draw people to our community.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ladd.
Hi, Jimmy, and thank you. Thank you so much. If you were appointed to the Airport Commission, you will be Cathedral City's representative. Do you think Cathedral City's interests related to the airport are different than the other cities' interests? And you touched on that just briefly.
Yeah. You know, every city will have their own agenda per se. But for me, the commonality is the success of the airport is also success of our surrounding cities. And again, like I said, being Palm Springs adjacent, we really, as a city, offer something very special. And I think it's just our uniqueness as a city as a whole. I think it would also be important to understand what does the city expect from the airport as well. You know, what does the council want from the airport? It's not like this is the commission. Yes, you represent your city. What is your city expecting from the airport? What would your city like with the airport? Kind of a team effort for the success of the airport.
Jimmy, thank you for your willingness to participate. Is there anything you'd like to add to this council for us to consider?
No, sir, I appreciate all your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Robert Mata? Did I say that right, Mata? Okay.
Thank you.
Getting
Good
better.
afternoon.
Hello. Thank you for your interest in the Palm Springs International Airport Commission. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why would you want to serve on this commission?
Okay, I go by Bob.
Bob,
First off,
okay.
That's fine.
Thank you, Bob.
Lived in Cathedral City now for over 12 years and have retired. I'm a retired educator, 40 years, ultimately serving as a superintendent of schools. And in that process, of course, over time, I've worked with many commissions, nonprofits, and economic development groups, simply because those connections are part of being a public servant, and also the importance of always working on behalf of constituency groups, and in particular, in my case, students and parents.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ross.
Thank you very much. Do you have any previous experience? Why do I have this again? Yes, same thing. Do you have any previous experience serving on an advisory board, either in the government, nonprofit, or corporate setting? You answered some of it, but if you could expound.
Absolutely. Since most of my professional career was in Iowa before moving to California, I was obviously on a lot of community groups, commissions. I was also on state commission. I was on the state commission of Latino Affairs for the state of Iowa. In serving as a superintendent, I was on economic growth groups for the city where I was superintendent, as well as the county. I worked as a board of director on the United Way. I worked for a nonprofit, Quad Cities Affirming Diversity, as a board director, and I was even a school board director at one time.
Thank you. Busy man.
Councilmember Gregory.
All right, hi, Bob. Thank you for coming and for your interest in the commission.
Oh, thank you.
So my question has to do with resolving conflict within the group. So the Airport Commission is made up of many interests, governmental and other interests,
Yes.
and heavily weighted to Palm Springs. The airport is in Palm Springs, of course. So we wouldn't expect on every item everyone to have exactly the same view. So how would you go about resolving conflict to come to a satisfactory conclusion?
Yeah, I've learned over time that it's really important to be a critical listener of the work that's going on with groups, and seeking the thoughts and opinions of others is very important to me, as well as then ultimately the necessity of consensus-based leadership to help come to terms with what kinds of decisions need to be made, which ultimately become recommendations to, in this case, Palm Springs City Council, who oversees the commission, and of course, serving as a representative, in this case, to you from the city of Cathedral City.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, Bob. Why do you believe the Palm Springs Airport is important to Cathedral City?
Well, I was kind of reading up on things about airport commissions, and I learned that this commissions have a priority of promoting and protecting air transportation to serve the public interest and to continue integrating the airport here in terms of its related activities. But it's around orderly growth, I believe, is important. And to meet the traveling plans and without unduly altering property and persons next to the airport. So it's important that the commission serve with that understanding that priorities are around the region, not just around the physical proximity of the airport.
Thank you. Councilmember Lamb.
Hi, Bob. Nice to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita.
If you are appointed to the Airport Commission, you will be Cathedral City's representative. Do you think Cathedral City's interests related to the airport are different than other cities' interests?
I believe there are similarities, and the similarities in those interests are access, of course, to the airport and proximity. I also believe that interests around coordinated growth are necessary. I was reading on the website about what the commission has as its priorities and duties, and I read one of what was real great of interest to me was it stated in number 7 to keep respective elected bodies informed of activities at the airport and recommend types of services to those same bodies, valley-wide initiatives to assist the airport. Every one of those duties and priorities and powers of the commission are important. That one resonated with me because, again, this airport serves the entire valley. And I think even for some of those priorities and interests for even Cathedral City is that subcommittee on noise. And so I believe Cathedral City has a member on that subcommittee. So the impact is important, not only from the standpoint of interest, but collective support in terms of what happens today and happens tomorrow for the airport. Because I think this gentleman over here, when he was talking about the airport, it is one of the most fantastic airports you could ever come into because of how the open air features that it offers. And I have many friends and relatives who come in, and they're just in awe of this airport because it's so beautiful. So, yes, definitely common interest.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bob, for your willingness to participate. Is there anything you else would like to say to this council for us to consider?
Just that you'll be able to count on me as a willing participant and representative to the commission, and also to be responsive back to you in those efforts and initiatives.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Gary, Amy?
Mr. Mayor, council members.
Hello, Gary.
Hello.
Thank you for your interest in the Palm Springs International Airport. Commission, please tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested, and are you a good candidate for this commission?
42 years air traffic control, 28 of them at Palm Springs Airport, retired out of Palm Springs Airport. Another 8 years moving around air traffic, Ontario and Van Nuys Airport as an advisor. Been in the city 36 years, probably one of your oldest residents here. Love it here. My wife's never leaving. She threatens me constantly. Mom's in North Carolina. I'm like, we can go east, and she's not leaving. So I'll be here for quite a while.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much. Do you have any previous experience serving on advisory boards, nonprofits, and corporate setting?
Started Mayor's Blue Ribbon Committee, Mayor George Hardy. Pride and Progress Committee, ran that for 2.5 years. From there, went to Planning Commission. From there, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Southern California Association of Governments. Was on the give me a moment. The battered women's shelter from the storm. I was part of building that up, was on cerebral palsy board for several years as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Gregory.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for coming down and for your interest in the commission.
Thank you.
So my question has to do with resolving conflict within the group. So as you know, the Airport Commission is made up of a variety of different parties, governmental and non-governmental, heavily weighted to Palm Springs. It is in Palm Springs. So we wouldn't expect necessarily everybody to see the same on every issue. How would you go about resolving that in a way that brought about a satisfactory conclusion?
You danced around it, you can't say it, but it's a stacked board against us. 19 members, 10 from Palm Springs, 1 from each city, 8, and 1 county. So 10 to 9. But many of the gentlemen before me brought up the good points. You have to find a medium. You have to listen. You have to try to sway. If you can't, try to change or present it in a different manner. Find a medium, as one gentleman mentioned earlier, and try to persuade them.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Gary.
Good afternoon.
My question is, why do you believe the Palm Springs Airport is important to Cathedral City?
As the gentleman previously mentioned, jobs. Cathedral City is a blue-collar city, and we're proud of that. And many of them work at Palm Springs Airport, in the rental areas, in the flight attendants, the gates. They're all probably 3/4 of them are from Cathedral City. And the proximity of the airport is important to us. Easy access, easy withdrawal.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Councilmember Lamb.
Great. Nice to see you, Gary.
My pleasure.
And thank you for your willingness to serve on a committee. If you are appointed to the Airport Commission, you will be Cathedral City's representative. Do you think Cathedral City's interests related to the airport are different than other cities' interests?
Again, proximity. They're neighbors. Sometimes not nice neighbors. They're not. There are different ways to approach noise issues. Palm Springs has a hotline. We have to make that known to our residents, and they won't address the issue unless it's called upon many times. So we need to make the phone number well known to our residents and just flood their hotline. I think that's about the only thing that's going to bring. The airport actually belongs to the military. Every airport in the United States belongs to the military. They allow us to use it. That's why the federal government funds all of your airport developments. So our jets coming in, a lot of people are angry about it, but it cannot be stopped. You try to stop the military from flying in, they'll take back their airport.
Gary, thank you for participating in this interview. Is there anything you'd like to add to this council?
No.
That we can consider?
Thank you for your consideration and your
sir.
time.
You bet. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we will be appointing the International Airport and then the Finance at legislative actions later on this evening after we start at 5:30. You're all welcome to come back, or you could join us on the internet, or you could watch it on our TV program with thousands and thousands and thousands of other people and join in. But I would like to thank each and every one of you for participating, taking the time to come out here. And I got to say, I've been on this council for about 11 years, and this has been a very, very interesting group of applications, and you're all been very, very good. I got to thank you. Any other council like to say anything? Anybody, Mayor Pro
Well,
Tem?
it may be that you looked like I wasn't, watching you, and it's true, I didn't have my eyes on anybody, because I kept going over these again and again, and saying, oh, well, maybe that's number 2, oh, no, maybe that's number 1. I think you're all really talented, and thank you so much for considering Cathedral City. I am personally honored by that.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, we're going to adjourn for about 5 minutes, and we'll start study session at 3 o'clock. Thank you. Yeah. Manager, do we have a staff report?
Before we do that, can we do public comment? That's on the,
I'm sorry. All right, thank you. Any public comments?
yeah, we do. We have two requests to speak. So would you like me to read the statement of participation?
Please.
Okay. Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you're a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the city clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the city clerk for distribution. The first person that would like to speak to the council this afternoon is Fuzz Edwards.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Oops.
With you, I've already spoken to Ms. Lamb briefly and Mr. McClendon and appreciate that. It gives me no joy in sharing what is a personal challenge at this particular time. In October, my husband lost his job when the business was sold, and I was currently unemployed at that time. So very quickly, we ran into a financial situation that was not very comfortable. In January, a friend had suggested to me as I was traveling to go on Mr. B&B and find a room to rent in Los Angeles. And through that, my partner and I discussed what if we were to rent out a room in our home to make some much needed income, because at that particular time, we were already on food stamps. Our income was dwindling quickly. We were both having trouble finding jobs because of our particular work without having to relocate, which is what we did not want to do. We enjoy our home here in the Cove, and we do love Cathedral City. So I proceeded to then make a profile on Mr. B&B, in which I also then put our room up for rent to see, as a former retail person, how to test the market, to see that if it would justify what we needed to do. I had also come and visited with Victor Gomez, and he gave me all the information about a home share program. I realized short-term vacation rentals were a hot topic, and so we had a big discussion, and this seemed like this would be a great way for us to get some much-needed income while we figure things out. Shortly after posting that ad, we received a citation and a bill for $5,000 because we were advertising a room to rent without a permit. One thing that I did fail to mention was after visiting with Mr. Gomez, the $642 for the permit was not attainable for us at that particular time. As I said, we were already on food stamps and trying to save every penny that we had. So once again, my previous life being in retail and operations, I thought it would be smart if we could see if we could get 3 weekends in a row of bookings that would justify that $642 that we were either going to have to put on a credit card or borrow from someone in order to make that happen. When we got the citation, yes, I immediately took it down and said, oh my gosh, I did not realize that advertising was part of that thing and that we had broken that rule. I've been perfectly honest about that. Yes, that was ignorance on my part, and I apologized. So I proceeded to go through the appeal process, hoping that when I told our story, that some humanity would be involved and people would see, okay, this maybe isn't the exact same situation. Unfortunately, after going through the appeal process, it feels like the only thing that was heard was we did indeed violate that code, and that we would need to pay the $5,000, which had now become $10,000 because of the timing. One of the things that I had asked during the appeal was, Mr. Gomez, if you were able to book our room, which showed that we had something active, why did you not book it for the weekend that you were doing this or the weekend after that? And the reason he could not answer that is because we had actually booked out 2 months. Book's not the correct term. We had actually blocked out 2 months while we tried to get our ducks in a row and figure out if this was going to be.
I've allotted a little bit more time than I should have. You're only
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, 3 minutes. I don't know, I probably understand. Can you finish up in just, can I give you about 20 more seconds?
Absolutely, in 20 seconds. So we just wanted to show our intent was not malicious or to actually violate. We had blocked out 2 months. We were going to go through the permit process once we had acquired $642. We thought we were being smart by advertising and made sure that we had those 3 bookings to justify that price and to make sure that we were not going further in the hole than we already were.
Okay.
So that was the intent, is what I'm hoping to show this evening. This
Okay.
afternoon.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Appreciate it.
Dante Kai.
Hello, Council. Thank you for hearing our speak. I'll probably take less than 3 minutes. I think he covered it pretty well. I just say this, it's extraordinary circumstances. I've already gone through my 7 stages of grief and anger and all these other things about it, that today I'm just saying, appealing on the point of humans who go through extraordinary circumstances. We weren't intending to do any law breaking and make money underneath the permit, without a permit. It was an intentional thing to find out, is it even worth doing it? Enough people are going to want to book a room in our house to make it worth going through that process. It was market research. And at this point, I'm just asking that, I know the law is important as it's written, why it exists, and I think it needs to exist. It would be nice if one existed that applied to our circumstances of a single bedroom, us not being off property, versus whole house, which seems like this law leans more towards that. That would be nice to look at. But I'm just looking for a sense of equanimity in the sense that there's the law and there's this sense of subtle circumstances that come into humans' lives and they have to do what they've got to do. Our house was in forbearance and several other things were going on at that time. So we had to make that decision to verify before we bought the permit. I hope you can hear that and thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
I don't have any other requests to speak forms for public comment. If you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment on any item not on the agenda, now would be the time. And I see no hands raised.
We really can't comment. This is just, no, not at this time. Okay, thank you. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report on Desert Recreation District presentation?
Thank you. As you know, for many, many years, we've been working with the Desert Recreation District on various partnerships, and with the hope of ultimately being able to become part of the district and take advantage, so that our residents can take advantage of the array of services and products that they provide. I asked the Desert Recreation District to come to the study session today to talk to you about their programs and services, specifically on things that promote safety and security in our parks. Kevin Coleman, the director, is here today, and he'll give you a brief presentation and then any comments or questions that you all have. Kevin?
Thank you, Charlie. Mayor, members of the City Council, it's always a pleasure. Do this without causing problems. Okay, and if I just click, it'll move? That would be easier.
Okay, it should be. Let's just make sure.
Oh, perfect.
It's not dead. Let's turn it on. Yeah. There we go.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So, quick introduction of Desert Recreation District. We are California's largest recreation and park district. We cover 1,865 square miles. We serve more than 380,000 residents throughout the greater Coachella Valley. And we do that by working in part with the municipalities and the county that are within our jurisdiction. We manage, maintain, assist in maintaining more than 40 park and recreation facilities. We create and deliver quality programs, services, and classes, and we facilitate leisure opportunities through partnerships with public, private, and non-for-profit agencies, a couple of which are here and presenting tonight. As we strive to ensure members of the public receive personal benefits such as physical fitness, relaxation, and revitalization, social benefits in the form of stronger and healthier families, and enrichment for those with disabilities, and economic benefits through a more productive and healthier citizens and increased tourism. It's our mission. Did I get that right? There we go. It's our mission to enrich the quality of life for Coachella Valley residents by acquiring, developing, operating, and maintaining a community-focused park and recreation system and preserving it for future generations. We achieve this through our vision of a community collaborative approach. The district will be a regional provider of premier parks and recreation services in the Coachella Valley, ensuring that all residents have equitable and barrier-free opportunities that contribute to their overall wellness and the wellness of our communities. Our team is highly trained to engage and assist residents, ensuring that everyone has a positive experience in our parks and facilities. All staff members are first aid and CPR certified, equipping them to handle small emergencies with confidence and care. Additionally, our lifeguards undergo rigorous training and certifications to maintain the highest safety standards at our various aquatic facilities. This commitment to excellence reflects our mission to provide a safe, enjoyable, and welcoming environment for all of our community members. Uh-oh, what did I do? I did something. There we go. Programming. Our programs are designed to all community members. These programs include recreational activities such as sports leagues, fitness classes, outdoor adventures, and all to promote physical health and well-being. Additionally, DRD prides itself in including programs for special populations and at-risk populations, such as in after-school. We have 28 after-school locations throughout the Coachella Valley. Our adaptive and therapeutic recreation programming, and our specialized programming for LGBTQ programming, as well as our aquatics programs. Special programs for children and seniors ensures that everyone, regardless of age, has access to enriching and enjoyable activities that strengthen community bonds and enhance quality of life. Programs like these play a crucial role in keeping our youth engaged in positive activities, providing them safe and structured environments that steer them away from the streets and potential involvement in gangs or other unlawful activities. We also provide a wide variety of special events. These events are designed to help foster community engagement and create memorable experiences for residents. DRD provides opportunities for families and neighbors to come together, celebrate, and connect. Additionally, community events like our outdoor concerts, our movie nights, and our local resource fairs encourage participation and strengthen community bonds with all that's available to them in the community. With regard to park safety, we have a park ambassador program that is run by park attendants. Park attendants play a crucial role in ensuring safety and enjoyment in our parks. They provide not only supervision to maintain a secure and safe environment, but they also engage with the public on a regular basis. Throughout the day, they inspect the parks to identify and address potential hazards, ensure the park is and remains safe and clean, and additionally, park attendants enforce city ordinance, ensuring compliance with local regulations and promoting a respectful and orderly atmosphere for everyone. Our park attendants undergo a comprehensive training program that covers all safety protocols, first aid, customer service, and city ordinance enforcement. This ensures they are well equipped to handle the various situations and provide a safe and welcoming environment for all park visitors. Our team works hand in hand with the city, the police department, who left, and members of the community, providing an open line of communication and fostering a positive collaboration. This partnership also involves joint patrols ensuring a visible presence and rapid response to incidents. By working together, we suggest and implement effective safety measures such as our presence, improved lighting, when to patrol, and regular safety audits. This proactive approach not only deters criminal activity, but it also fosters a sense of security and trust amongst park visitors, making our public spaces safer and more welcoming for everybody. Our park attendants also actively engage with the unhoused community by enforcing posted city ordinances to maintain and enforce safety in the parks. They also play a crucial role in educating those same individuals about available outreach initiatives and support services that exist in this and surrounding communities. We pride ourselves in creating a welcoming environment for all, ensuring that everyone feels safe and respected. And in this proactive approach, we positively impact park usage by reducing the negative effects on park facilities and promoting an inclusive community space. Our team opens and closes park facilities with regular cleaning schedules to maintain cleanliness and address any litter and debris promptly. Attendants also handle maintenance requests, ensuring that any issues with park facilities are quickly reported and resolved. Their active involvement and dedication help create a pleasant and safe environment, allowing everyone to enjoy the parks to its fullest and feeling safe while doing so. One behind. Community engagement. We do this using various platforms to connect with residents. Outreach initiatives include community meetings and feedback sessions, providing opportunities for direct interaction and input from community members. Additionally, the district leverages social media and online engagement to reach a broader audience, sharing updates, gathering feedback, and promoting events and programs. By encouraging community participation in park activities and volunteer opportunities, the district fosters a sense of ownership and involvement among residents. This engagement strategy ensures that community's voice is heard and that park programs and services meet their needs and expectations. So the benefits of joining Desert Recreation District. Well, one would be accessing the endless recreation program opportunities at the district resident rates. We believe parks and recreation should be available to all, regardless of their income or ability to pay. Financial assistance is available to district residents who qualify through our nonprofit, the Desert Recreation Foundation. Your resident members Fit Pass grants access to all of our community centers across the Coachella Valley, featuring fitness equipment, racquetball courts, walking tracks, weight rooms, gymnasiums, and the plethora of activities that take place in them. Parks and community centers are a vital asset that significantly benefit the community by promoting healthy living and enhancing overall well-being. They provide accessible space for physical activities such as walking, jogging, sports, and fitness classes, encouraging an active lifestyle. These facilities also offer opportunities for social interaction, fostering a sense of community, and reducing isolation. Additionally, parks and community centers host various educational and recreation programs that support mental health, personal growth, and lifelong learning. By creating environments that encourage physical, social, and mental wellness, they contribute to a healthier, happier, and more connected community. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Council?
Yes, I have a couple of questions, Mayor. Good afternoon. My first question is, how many employees does the DRD employ?
We currently have around 380. It fluctuates seasonally, so in the summertime, it goes up a little bit because we operate 6 pools, and so seasonally, those influx during the school year, we generally have around 340.
And what cities are currently members of the DRD?
So going from east to west, the city of Coachella, city of Indio, city of La Quinta, city of Palm Desert, city of Indian Wells, a small portion up to Bob Hope Drive in Rancho Mirage, and then there's also 8 unincorporated communities within the boundaries of the district. Thousand Palms, Mecca, North Shore, Oasis, Thermal, Vista Santa Rosa. I'm sure I'm forgetting one, or Indio Hills.
And what type of services does a DRD provide to adults?
So
Or
we have.
does it provide services to adults?
Absolutely. We like to say that we serve everybody in the community, from cradle to grave, or basket to casket, or what have you. We have a lot of activity that is geared towards, how would you say it? Self-guided activities for adults. For example, use of our different facilities and park spaces. We also have adult leagues, for example, adult softball. We also have special interest classes, art, dance, music, a wide variety of different fitness type classes, including, like right now we're doing water aerobics. Well, that's for adults. It's not necessarily for younger people. And then also for our senior population, we have several locations where we have basically senior center hours in communities that don't have senior centers, that are geared specifically for older adults, as well as all of our family type events are going to incorporate, hopefully, the parents. And for example, we just did a family camping trip to Silverwood Lake, where we took 16 families camping for the first time, out in the wild-ish. So.
And one more question. Do you offer services for special needs residents?
We do. We have, I don't know how to say this properly, but I would say one of the, if not the leading adaptive therapeutic recreation and sports programs in Southern California. We often are called upon for advice on how are we doing what we're doing. We serve every different type of disability, from physical to cognitive. I would say the vast majority of those that participate are of cognitive disability, but we provide pretty much the same programming that we provide for our able residents to the others. Anything from, we have adaptive gymnastics, archery, basketball, volleyball, camping, hiking, all geared towards those with special needs.
Oh, great. And last question here. Do you provide transportation? I know there's some residents that do not have transportation to get to your locations or to your events.
We do have the ability to do transportation. Typically, it's usually for a specific event. We don't generally go and pick people up at their home and deliver them someplace. But what we do is for all of the activities that would take you away from one of our locations, we do provide transportation for that. We have a fleet of large vans that we move people around quite efficiently with.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Lamb.
Hi, thank you so much. And I'm very familiar with your program. But the one thing I was interested in hearing about some of the job responsibilities of the park attendants was that they interact with the unsheltered homeless population. Could you just tell me a little bit about that? I was not aware
Sure.
that that was part of their, that would
Absolutely.
be wonderful.
So, obviously, you know, here in California, and especially in climates like the Coachella Valley, where, you know, people don't worry about necessarily freezing to death at night, where we have a large homeless population. And while they have every right that everybody else has to be in our parks and to utilize our facilities, at the point at which there is a law being broken, you know, whether they're, you know, openly using drugs or drinking in a park or doing something that is not allowed in the park, we absolutely will inform them of what is inappropriate in their activity and what is acceptable in the park. We carry pocket-sized, they're like 3 full business cards that open up, and it has a list of different services and how they can attain those services. So if they are unaware, which is not usually the case, most know what's available to them, and choose either not to or what have you, but we reiterate what is available to them. We'll even help make arrangements with the quality of life officers to help get those people moved to where they need to go. But the goal is that our parks are clean and safe and feel safe for all users, not just those that don't have somewhere else to go. And so, yes, we've been doing this in Palm Desert since 1999. Obviously, the problem is different now than it was back then. And we've been doing this for the city of Indio for the last 8 months.
Councilmember Gregory.
So while you're on park attendance.
Sure.
So you kind of touched on one of my questions, which is how long have you actually had park attendance? It sounds like it's something that it's specific within the city. So is that something that's like an enhancement that the city helps fund?
Yes.
Or?
So the way it started is originally we had our own park attendants for our own parks. And then 26 years ago or so, the city of Palm Desert approached us about us providing a greater presence in the city-owned parks in Palm Desert. And that has morphed into this program that has been quite successful. They not only are they, you know, cleaning restrooms and then opening and closing or locking and unlocking facilities and checking for you know, things that may be broken or a hazard to park users. But their other role is really to engage with the park users, find out what they like, what they don't like. We do regular surveying in real time in the parks, and we collect that data, and then we can share that with whoever needs to know, whether it's our own facilities or whether it's a city department that needs to know. As well as preparing spaces we do all of the reservations for pavilion rentals, amphitheater rentals, events, sports courts, tournaments, those kinds of things. And it's also the park attendants' jobs to make sure that those areas are prepped and ready to go when the person who has reserved them shows up. And then also when they are finished, to check them out and make sure that the facility is left in the condition that they found it or better.
So it may be different at different locations, but logistically, how does that typically work? Do you have someone assigned to a particular park,
Sure.
or do they travel between, and do they have hours, and
Sure.
are they on call if they're not there, or that type of thing?
Yeah, so we have dedicated park attendants. That's their role, and they are dedicated. So we have about 13 dedicated in Palm Desert, and 8 dedicated in Indio, and then the district has another half a dozen of its own to do various parks, and they work in tandem with our Public Works Department. So we have, less overlap of more efficient traveling, less traveling. So in most of the district-owned facilities and parks, there is a community center located there as well. So we may have the custodians go in the mornings and do the opening and cleaning versus the park attendant, and then the park attendant comes on midday and works through the evening for supervising that space. And yeah, it's a little bit different in each jurisdiction on how we do it, but the basic tenets are the same. It's to provide that sense of safety and security, immediately address problems as they arise, whether it be with the physical condition of the facility and or some kind of issue between people that's happening in a
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure that because, I would think at the level of activity we have now, maybe it would be increased, but if you had somebody assigned to each of our parks, they would probably be pretty bored most of the time.
Yeah, no, they travel between the parks. So like in Palm Desert, there's 14 parks. In Indio, there's 16 parks, and they go between them, but spend most of the time at the most heavily used parks where the most issues are suspected to arise or have been identified that we are trying to address.
Okay, so after a while, they get a pattern down, or they know when the scheduling is heaviest?
Yes.
Either actual scheduling or when it tends to be heaviest, and I suppose they pay attention to things like the school year and half days and all these kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%, and it's typically not kids that are using the parks wrong.
Right.
It's those that are,
Which leads to my other question I think I alluded to. So if they're not at a park and say our police department gets a call that there's something going on that might fall into, today in Panorama Park, there was someone sleeping by the concession stand, okay? So I don't know if anybody called it in, but if somebody called in like that, we do have a homeless team in the police department that may or may not be on and may or may not respond, and then same thing with patrol. But is there a mechanism in those cities where you serve that the DRD is also notified? And
yes. So typically we're the first contact because we're there constantly, and generally police have bigger fish to fry than somebody sleeping under a tree. But we all have to be very careful about, there's no law against sleeping under a tree in a park, and certainly if it was a family sitting on the blanket under the same tree and they happen to be napping, right? However, if it's after park hours and they're sleeping in the park, well, if we have a no camping ordinance in the city, which I'm sure we do, then there's something that we can do.
Yeah, I'm not assuming that you would tell them they couldn't, but to check the welfare or to figure out if anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's first and foremost.
How about dog parks? Do you have dog parks that you
We
have
do.
in your realm? And, most of the time they're 100% peaceful, but sometimes there are disputes. Are your attendants trained to be involved in those types of things?
Yes. Dog parks are a unique animal in themselves. We all love our furry children, but not all dog park users use the park in the same way. And yes, they are trained in conflict resolution and helping to deal with those issues. However, if it's something like a dog has been dropped off in the fenced dog park and the owner is absent, we're calling animal control.
Certainly, but they might get involved, like stand by. Right now, usually citizens will stand by while animal control responds. But so okay, all right, and I understand that we're maybe getting a little bit in the details, where I know this is a high level and these kind of things would be worked out, but I do appreciate, because I think it helps visualize, at least to me, how this would work, what level you have in other cities, and that we might, hope for if we're able to join the district here.
Yeah, and I would also add that our park ambassadors or park attendants, they're in addition to our regular park maintenance team, right? So we have a group also that is going and fixing and taking care of those properties outside of this. This is just to present a regular presence of authority in the parks that we hope that it will be a very respectful relationship between the citizens and the park ambassadors. And that's why we came up with the term ambassador versus, ranger or park police or those kinds of things, is that we want it to be a mutually respectful relationship and an everybody wins kind of scenario versus, oh, here comes that truck, we got to go.
All right. Thank you for that discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I apologize in advance. My questions are a bit of a fruit salad all over my page. My first one is, I don't think that rangers are terrible. I used to read Ranger Raccoon all the time.
Me too.
When I was a little kid. Okay, so what is your average cost of a homeless cleanup in a park on property?
We have not had to deal with that in
You haven't
terms
had to
of.
clean up at all?
Mm-mm.
Wow, lucky you. Okay.
No, generally, if we're unsuccessful in getting them to move on, we have a direct line to either the sheriff or IPD or whatever the jurisdiction is, to get assistance, either through code enforcement and/or regular peace officers.
But you probably don't have patrol your ambassadors all night long.
No,
So
no,
that's where you often find the homeless cleanups,
Correct.
or, in the morning and
correct,
the
yeah.
evenings.
Ours typically work from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m.
It's a long day, yeah. Yeah, I'm not criticizing that, I was just concerned about you. So, John probably won't admit that he asked me to ask this question, but he wanted to know if some of your things were included, like pickleball, which is so popular now.
Yeah, as long as there's courts available, we do pickleball leagues, we do pickleball lessons.
It's just crazy how
and then
popular
it's-
it is.
Yeah, and then of course there's, that's another thing that our park attendants help out with, is sometimes the paddle line along the fence gets really long and people get, impatient. But fortunately, the pickleball community seems to be a very happy and active and social community. And so conflict is fairly limited, other than we want more courts.
Can you tell me how many of your centers do not have parks attached?
I think only one at this point.
Thank you.
I take that back, two. Two don't. I mean, I suppose you could call it a park. The North Shore Yacht Club is kind of a natural park-like setting, but it's not a park. And then our Thermal Community Center is on the Coachella Valley Unified School District headquarters, campus. But directly across the street, we're going out to bid in July to build a 10-acre park directly across from it. So,
Oh, that'll be nice. That'll be
yeah.
nice.
So then it'll be one.
So you talked about the centers you have, in La Quinta and in Indio and in Palm Desert that are buildings and parks, and you maintain them. What is the average size of a community center? And then how much is the average amount of a park that's attached? I mean, is there a ratio that if it's 20,000 feet,
Yeah.
you want 40,000 park? Is there a way to do that?
No, there's not a real magic, combo to that. I think it really the intent of what the facility is designed for. would determine kind of what the outdoor space surrounding it would look like.
What is your average size, actual?
I can't tell you the average size. The largest is just over 30,000 square feet. The smallest is maybe 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, I was just looking at like La Quinta Indio and Palm Desert.
Yeah, okay, so Palm Desert is about 24,000 square feet. Indio, and actually that's going to be around 28,000 square feet in November when we finish the renovations there. Indio is just over 30,000 square feet. And then La Quinta is around 7,500 square feet.
Is it just, it's not part of their pool area, is it? It's
No,
something separate?
no, it's separate, but it is in a 6-acre park.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I think this might be my last question, as they're all scratched out. What percentage of employees who interact with customers are bilingual?
Depends on the community. So we do our best to hire employees that are indigenous to the community that they're serving. So because we cover such a large geographic area, we try and do our absolute best to hire people from the community at which they're serving. So in a lot of those communities, say in the far eastern Coachella Valley, I would say probably 90% of the employees speak Spanish and English. And then as you move west, it gets less and less. That'd be an interesting statistic to figure out. I don't know exactly what percentage of our employees are bilingual.
And the only thing left on my page says Ranger Raccoons, so I think we've already covered that. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You are dating us back to the old scholastic.
Kind of telling everybody. Born before the 70s.
I was at an event in Desert Hot Springs, and there's a logo up there that's a Desert Rec inside their auditorium. Were you once up in Desert Hot Springs?
When they first opened the wellness center and they were trying to figure out how to operate it, for the first, that was the first one season or first 2 seasons, we operated the swimming pool for them. And then also with our partnership with Palm Springs Unified and the Desert Healthcare District, we ran our Ready Set Swim program, which was a 3rd grade swim program. Our goal is to put every 3rd grader through swim lessons to have them be water safe. And then and half of the group would be doing swim lessons, the other half would be doing healthy habits, nutritional eating, and exercise, and then they would switch. So it may be left over from when we were doing that. We haven't done that in a couple of years. We're actually bringing it back. We got a grant from First Five Riverside, and we'll be doing that with Coachella Valley Unified School District in the fall, doing the 3rd grade swim program.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other council members? We're all done? All right, thank you very much. Great presentation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Public speakers?
We do. Terry Applegate would like to provide public comment.
Good afternoon, Council. I was quickly jotting down some notes. This issue has been discussed for several times over the years. On the Resident Study Committee, we had a discussion with DRD in November, and I think half of the group had no previous experience with services that DRD provided. While it's important to have this brought up to Council, it can't stop there. So I think the important issue is how do we bridge the communication gap between those who are familiar with DRD services and residents who have no idea of your offerings. Communication needs to take several forms. You had an event last week at the pool, which I think is great, but perhaps some of the residents here who have utilized services in the past could be Cathedral City ambassadors towards promoting the idea of what DRD can offer residents. I remember one of the people on the committee said he and his wife would not have been able to survive financially without the support of the after-school program. But there's a myth that DRD is only for kids, and I think if we utilize a multi-pronged approach on what services DRD has and what types of people can take advantage, because it really is multi-generational, I think that we would have better understanding in the community of the vast amount of resources that DRD provides. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Anyone else?
I do not have any other requests to speak forms at this time, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I don't see any hands raised,
Thank
Mayor.
you. This is a presentation only for discussion and direction only. There's no formal action required. And we have a presentation, Lift to Rise 2024-26 Action Plan. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Mayor. We are happy to have representatives of Lift to Rise with you today. They want to tell a little bit about their programs, and I think some of their clients are here as well to give you some information. And so they have a brief presentation, and they'll take your questions after that.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Thank you so much
Welcome.
for having us. My name is Ian Gabriel. I'm the Director of Data Policy and Planning at Lift to Rise, and I'm joined by my colleague.
Jessica Pollard, the Senior Policy Analyst at Lift to Rise.
So we're here today, as City Manager McClendon just mentioned, to present our recently released 2024-2026 action plan, which we're very excited about. It launched formally in May 15th, and since then we've been going to every city council in the Coachella Valley to present this plan and do this presentation. Cathedral City is the last but not least city that we will be presenting to, so we're happy to finally be here and talk with you all. So the goal of today's presentation is really to let you know about who we are, where we've been, where we're going with this action plan, and then how the city of Cathedral City can help us get there. So Lift to Rise is a nonprofit organization. We're based in Palm Desert, but we serve the entire Coachella Valley. We operate under a North Star of a future where all Coachella Valley families are healthy, stable, and thriving. And together with a network of over 70 cross-sector partners, we have organized around a shared housing affordability strategy, all organized around this goal of reducing rent burden in the Coachella Valley by 30% through the production of 10,000 units of affordable housing by 2028. So that's a 10-year goal that we started in 2018, and every 2 years we create an action plan to help break up the work over 10 years and define our contributions together. So just a little bit of an example of what action plans in the past that we've created with our partners have enabled us to achieve. So prior to 2018, between 2010 and 2018, when this work launched, the Coachella Valley was seeing an annual construction rate of affordable housing of about 38 units per year, which is very, very low. Now we're over 1,200 units across the valley that are actively under construction, and there's more than 7,200 units in some stage of the development process.
Excuse me, if I could ask this question as you go. Out of 38 units, are those like for double occupancy, families? So how many people would live in a unit?
It could be any amount of people. It just really means like a dwelling unit. So that would include a single family home or an apartment in a multifamily apartment building. So when we say that, it's sort of an average of all of the construction that went up that qualifies as deed restricted affordable during that period. So it primarily is multifamily apartment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the production rate of affordable housing, it has dramatically increased since then, is the point there. We've also been able to obligate or deploy $26 million in loans out of the fund that we built. Jessica will get into a little bit about that more later, but that has sparked almost 900 units of affordable housing across 11 different projects in the Coachella Valley. And then we've also been able to activate about 1,800 community residents across the valley to come to meetings just like this one and voice their support for affordable housing, send letters to their state representatives and federal representatives, all in support of affordable housing. So all of these things have come out of the strategies and actions that we've presented in our action plans that we've come up with our partners. So as I mentioned, every 2 years we bring together our partners in a roughly 6-month process where we have multiple full-day sessions with our partners. It's a facilitated process where we look at data, we look at the results from focus groups and listening sessions with community residents, and then we go through this rigorous process of identifying the barriers to getting to our 10,000 year goal, and then 10,000 unit goal, and then the strategies that we can work on together to actually get us to that goal. And I should mention that staff members from the City of Cathedral City have participated in the creation of those action plans in the past and have been part of our Housing Collaborative Action Network, which is this wider network of cross-sector partners. And that network includes all 9 local cities, the Riverside County, affordable housing developers, funders, banks, resident groups, nonprofit organizations, small businesses, healthcare actors. It's a wide array of stakeholders. And so what we're hoping to achieve with this action plan in particular is that by that July 2026, so about 2 years from now, we've reached that 7,500 unit mark out of the 10,000 overall goal. And we're hoping to prioritize or emphasize affordable housing that is connected to childcare and healthcare as well. So in the action plan that was released, we identified with our partners 6 key strategy areas, which you see here: pipeline, funding, infrastructure, policy advocacy, movement building, and rapid response. And I'm going to pass it over to Jessica to give some more detail on each of these strategies. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so our first strategy is our pipeline. On our website, livetorise.org, we operate an affordable housing pipeline portal, which is, it just allows us to spot, track, and frame the affordable housing units across the Coachella Valley. And we're happy to see the developments in Cathedral City. Last year, I think that we attended 2 of those grand openings. But our goal here is just to continue to track those units and make sure that we're increasing the supply. And by managing our pipeline, we're able to do that and have it go by city, specifically by city. Our goal with funding is just to address the funding bottleneck that our developers are experiencing when they're competing for tax credits and whatnot. And by operating our We Lift Coachella Valley Housing Catalyst Fund, which is a revolving loan fund where we can be able to just spur the production of affordable housing in the Coachella Valley. We were able to offer low interest loans to developers so that they're able to complete those developments across the valley. And I'm sure all of you know, in California, we're experiencing a deficit. And that means that a lot of the housing programs the funding for housing programs are being cut. And so we're interested to working with our municipalities to address those challenges and really come up with some local solutions to address the funding challenges so that we can actually get these units completed. And then policy advocacy is one of our other strategies. Here we're just wanting to reduce those barriers to production of affordable housing, and we work with our state and federal legislative advocates who really work to bring those resources to the Coachella Valley in our region and making sure that we're more competitive with the remainder of the state so that we can get more funding to the region or have more pro-housing policies that enable us to streamline affordable housing, and specifically with the local level policy advocacy, we're working with the cities and whatnot to encourage additional tools to increasing the supply of affordable housing. And then infrastructure is one of our our strategies as we're experiencing those some stalls in our pipeline where we've got many units in the pipeline that are stalled just because there's been a lack of infrastructure. And so one of our focuses here is to make sure that we're working with our utility companies to ensure that we can also reduce those barriers to infrastructure and continue the production of those units that are stalled because there's a lack of infrastructure. And then movement building is another one of our strategies. As Ian mentioned earlier in the presentation, we've been able to mobilize almost 1,800 residents over the past 2 years through initiatives such as our resident leadership table and our committees by cities, where we encourage the residents and educate residents on the challenges that we're experiencing with affordable housing. And by having our strategic communications team, we're able to raise that public awareness. I'm not sure if any of you have seen our billboards across the freeway or in the cities, but we do this so that we're able to draw people to the challenges that everyone is experiencing and to just continue to build that support. And with our rapid response strategy, I'm sure all of you know as well, during the pandemic, we were able to launch a rental assistance program that dispersed more than $300 million across the Riverside County, and we were able to keep over 120,000 residents in their homes. And then Cathedral City specifically, that was more than $9 million dispersed and helping over 1,200 households. And obviously, there's still a huge need for rapid response, and so we're dedicated to coming up with ways to make sure that we're keeping our residents housed. I'll pass it back to Ian.
So we gave the city clerk a little 2-pager of the action plan. It has some for you all. It has QR codes on either side. On the front side, it'll take you to our website. Both of them will take you to our website and give you a lot more detail on the key actions that we've come up with for each strategy area, so you can see specific things that we're going to be working on in each of those. For the sake of time, we wanted to give more of a high-level review today, but we encourage you and invite you to check it out on the website. And also on the back page, the QR code takes you to our Get Involved page. So depending on who you are, whether you're an elected official, a resident, a small business owner, you work for a nonprofit, for example, we give you different ways that you can get involved in this work. So what we're really trying to emphasize is that we've built this plan together with our partners, but that you all, the city of Cathedral City and the other cities in the Coachella Valley, have the power to help us move it forward. We know that Cathedral City is already a really great place for affordable housing, has done a lot of work to create affordable housing solutions already. So we ask that you continue to keep up the good work, continue to work with us along with this plan, recognizing that this is a regional issue that we all need to come together and work on as a region. So ideally, we would love to be invited back at some point to discuss some more specific things in which the city could do to plug into this plan. Right now, we're not here with any kind of ask or asking you to vote on anything. We're more letting you know who we are, what we're working on, and hoping that we can eventually continue to work with you on affordable housing solutions.
Well, we always appreciate when you don't ask for anything. Thank you.
Of course.
Jessica, Ian, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem has some questions for you.
Great.
So which
Put your microphone down.
Which assembly bills are holding you back?
Could you repeat the question?
Which assembly bills are holding you back?
Assembly bills. I mean, there's so many assembly bills and Senate bills that are both good and bad. We have a whole, our team is sort of the policy advocacy team that we look at individual bills. So there's a number that relate to funding, there's some that relate to land use, there's some that relate to streamlining. So
You
it's
don't have anything specific to give us today to say, hey, we should go out and look at these assembly bills and see what we can do to help?
We're happy to get back to you with a list, but I would want to make sure that it actually really applies to the city of Cathedral City before I say it.
That would be great. And then I just have 2 more questions. If you have a building that's, rather dilapidated and you're going to do a low-income remodel, do you count all those people? Because other people are, going to be dispersed as a result of that. So does that just come out as a zero, or do you count those newly remodeled places as low-income housing?
So in our pipeline, we do count preservation of affordable housing. It really comes to play mostly actually with Polanco parks and mobile home parks that are being rehabbed. A lot of them are at partial occupancy because of their state of dilapidation. So we're kind of considering that once it's remodeled and comes to full occupancy, it's essentially like we're adding units. And we also recognize that preservation is an important part, and it came up with a lot of our partners in the action planning process that if we're building new units but then losing other units because their affordability covenants are expiring or they're becoming uninhabitable due to dilapidation, we're kind of at a net zero. So we are emphasizing preservation, but we're really more focused on the production of new units.
All right, and my last question, before I tell you the last question, I want you to know that I think maybe some of my other council members, certainly city employees, were out for 5 days in the blazing heat. What was that, 4 years ago, with vouchers for housing because it was the middle of the crisis and it was tough. It was hot. It was really hot. Okay, and then my last question was, and you don't have to answer this because I want you to give me a real number so you can think about it and get back to me. And that is how many units would be needed to solve homelessness in the valley? I need a number.
That is a good question.
Can't really work towards something if you don't know what you're working towards.
Yeah.
So if you get back to me on that, I'm Nancy Ross.
Sounds good. We will follow up with you on that.
You know, the problem with that is not all the homeless want to be in a residency. That's kind of a trick question, but anyway. Councilmember Lamb.
Hi, and thank you for your presentation. And this is, I should probably have done my research, but I didn't. So Live to Rise, it's a nonprofit and started to, so who was your funding source to get started? I mean, is it county money? Is it state? Is it a conglomeration of all of it?
Originally funded through, I believe a pilot grant was from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, so philanthropy.
Okay.
We do receive some county funding, but mostly it's philanthropy funded is how we operate.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's a philanthropic group that has funded your salaries, in other words.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out in an organizational thing how it all.
Yeah, we have several different funders. I mean,
Okay.
some of them are local. The Desert Healthcare District, for example,
I
funds
see.
our work. Kaiser
Okay.
Permanente Foundation.
I get it.
Yeah.
And you did national grants as well.
National grants, local, yeah.
And so when you were saying that 9 million was distributed to Cathedral City, who was the pot of money that, who did that come from?
So that was federal funds,
Okay.
emergency COVID funds.
And they go to you to distribute it?
Yeah, they went to the county. The
Okay.
county contracted Lift to Rise, and on the
Right.
western side of the county, Inland SoCal United Way. And so they gave us the money to build and then administer the program.
And the reason, I mean, you are such a pivotal part of our community that, I wanted to make sure that this keeps getting funded because it's amazing.
Yeah, so actually, the city of Palm Springs has built their own rental assistance program. So right now, that program that we ran, the money ran out. The emergency COVID funding ran out.
Okay.
So we're no longer offering that, but we recognize that that's still a need. And while we're waiting for these long-term solutions and these housing units to get built, which takes time, folks still have needs now. And so some cities, Palm Springs is the only one so far that's actually launched that program, but cities are looking into how they can serve their residents with similar type programs, and we're happy to help inform those programs since we've done it before.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. My question is, can you explain to us a little bit about what does affordable housing mean? Do you provide rents? If so, by how much lower than the average or the market value? Or what does that mean when you're talking about affordable housing?
Yeah, so we define affordable as 80% AMI of the area. And so anything below that would be affordable, and those are the units that we're tracking in our pipeline. Anything above that would be market rate.
Okay. Thank you. Very simple.
Yeah.
So I just have a follow-up question to that. So if you're going by what the market rate is, that's going to primarily be single-family homes? there's just as many single-family homes, many, many more single-family homes than apartment complexes, right? But apartment complexes are going to house a lot more people. How do you do that?
Well, so it's not necessarily primarily single-family homes because there are market rate apartment complexes as well. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, the way that we're tracking that is by, Ian mentioned we have a Housing Collaborative Action Network, and so we have 70 plus partners in that collaborative that are communicating with us, and that includes the cities. And so if there are developments happening in Cathedral City, we're working with, we were working with Stone, and we're happy that he's moving on to, new ventures and whatnot. But we work with the cities closely to understand what's happening in the valley and then tracking the affordable units, components of that, rather than the market rate.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, in general, when we say market rate, we're talking about rental properties, whether they're single family or multifamily, and that's just a measure that's available, that's tracked by the California Housing and Community Development Department, a state agency, on what the fair market rate is for specific areas. So we can use that to determine that percentage, that income percentage that Jessica mentioned earlier to your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council? Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Now we'll go to public comments, and I do believe we have one speaker.
Tilia Zarella.
Is it okay if I help her translate?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Who's who now? Who are you?
I'll be helping translate.
What's your name?
Hazalia Gomez.
Okay, thank you.
Buenas tardes, estimados concilio, mayor de la ciudad de Catedral. Mi nombre es Otilia Zavala y estoy aquí en apoyo a Left to Right para su gran desempeño, ¿verdad? Yo les pido a ustedes que lo apoyen en sus proyectos que ellos tienen, ya que los proyectos que tienen ellos son maravillosos para toda la comunidad del Valle de Coachella.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Otilia Zavala, and I'm here to support Lift to Rise's projects. All of Lift to Rise's projects will benefit the entire Coachella Valley community.
Yo les pido el apoyo porque hemos visto, ¿verdad? Conozco muchas familias aquí en la ciudad de Catedral, donde en una casa viven hasta 3 familias. ¿Por qué? Porque es muy alto los precios de las rentas y para poder sobrevivir se tienen que juntar 2 o 3 familias en una pura casa, ya que a partir de la pandemia, ¿verdad? Muchos perdieron sus trabajos y sus casas. Así de que ahora se reúnen entre las familias para poder tener un techo donde vivir y no estar bajo los puentes o en los parques, bajo los árboles.
I urge you to support Lift to Rise's action plan because of the huge need of housing in the Coachella Valley. So there are many families who live, multiple family members live in one home and sometimes live in garages, and there are many people who are experiencing homelessness and don't have the opportunity to have a roof over their head, meaning they have to live under a tree or under a bridge.
También, ¿verdad? Ya que el Valle de Coachella es un lugar muy bonito para vivir, es muy bonito para vivir y mucho de nuestra gente trabajamos en hospitalidad, digamos hospitalidad, los que trabajan en los restaurantes, en los hoteles, en los campos de golf, en los jardineros, ¿verdad? Ya que ellos le dan hospitalidad a todo el visitante que viene al Valle de Coachella, especialmente en la área de Palm Springs, donde es Catedral, Rancho Mirage, donde vienen muchos turistas a jugar golf. Yo les pido, ¿verdad?, de que tengan esto en mente, de que hay que apoyar a esta coalición para que todos los habitantes tengan un lugar o al menos un apartamento donde vivir desahogadamente, donde no estén viviendo al día. Y de antemano, ¿verdad? Yo les doy muchas gracias por toda su atención y espero, ¿verdad?, que apoyen a esta gran coalición, Left to Right.
The Coachella Valley is a beautiful place. There are lots of great scenery and great people, and it's a great tourist area, but there's also many hospitality workers, especially in the area of Palm Springs, Cathedral City, and Rancho Mirage. And we have many people who work in the industry, such as people who work at the golf courses, who work at the restaurants, who work at the hotels. And so everyone also needs an adequate place to live that's affordable. And she wants to close off by saying that please support Live to Rise's action plan for the greater need of the community in housing. Thank you very much for your time.
Gracias.
Gracias. Tracy?
There are no other requests to speak forms for this item, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see no other hands.
Okay, this is a presentation only for discussion and direction only. There's no formal action required. Now we're going to have the update on the city's use of service contracts and the introduction of the contract tracker spreadsheet. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
And I'll try not to say too much because we're trying to get this done so we have time for your closed session items. But one of your goals and strategic plan has been to review our use of contracts and look for other areas where that might be possible. We thought the first step to that was to give you a presentation on the wide array of places where we use contracts today already in the city, and then see where the discussion takes us from there. John?
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor Pro Tem, fellow council members. As the City Manager just stated, I'm going to give you an update. Strategic plan goal, this is right out of it, Goal A, serve the community with pride and dedication. And action item A1 is the informed City Council current use of contracts. We've actually taken this to a lot higher levels, so we appreciate that actually being a strategic plan goal because it's going to be a useful tool. Service contracts, just to explain for yourselves, the audience, and the members watching on TV. Service contracts are basically agreements between the city and service provider. They detail the work required to be performed, responsibilities of both parties to complete work. Very similar to you engaging a contract with maybe your gardener or any other service you'd have for a long period of time. This includes payment for services, hourly rates, specific service rate. What are you going to get for what you're agreeing to? They're also used throughout this organization, and they're essential to keep pace with the city's growing population and expanding commercial base, and I'll get into the reasons why. It provides the best possible services at affordable rates, assists staff in their daily efforts to complete an assigned task. So what kind of contracts are these that we're talking about? So there's a lot of long-term service contracts that we entered into. You approve probably all of them. They come before you, and they're 1, 2, 3 years with options to extend. City Council approves traffic signal repairs and maintenance, graffiti removal services, traffic engineering, flock safety camera, that's in the PD, that contract, towing services, PD, scrap gallery agreement, that's in environmental, professional auditing services, that's in our financial services. There's a lot more. Short term, what we call short term would be 1 year or less. They may be renewed annually. Examples are Locator Logics, which we use for our mandatory underground service alert system. They manage the paperwork. HR Performance and Evaluation Services called TrackStar, which us as employees and the employer use to evaluate employees and their performance. Copier and engineering plotter maintenance. Sounds simple, but there are small 1 year agreements we make with the vendors. to provide maintenance, recruiting onboard services, and even getting down into the police department has several contracts, such as the school resource officer with Palm Springs Unified School District. Others, there's a lot of short-term, as-needed, low-cost specialized services. They don't have contracts. They're provided through purchase orders and or direct billing. These examples are things that are basically based on the need. So USA FACT reference background checks we use as we hire employees. Recruiting services, they're not used often, but we may engage a consultant to do that. Clear source fee studies, those are the providers of us evaluating new fees. It doesn't happen that often, but we'll use the vendor to do that. They have the skill set, even down to polygraph services that the police department use. When they do new hires, there's a lot of hires, we'll be using that service quite a bit that year. If there's not a lot of new hires, you're not using that much. And then there's other areas that we've kind of expanded it, and we polled other cities because we had this challenge a few years back, especially in the engineering department, where we would have an on-call surveyor, and the on-call surveyor says, I'm busy, I don't have enough time. And so we kind of talked to other cities, how do you do this? And they said, well, you got multiple on-call contractors, so you don't have that deficiency. So you go to your first preferred, second preferred, you go down the ladder and get work done. Or if they're all good, you keep spreading it, you know, they're all good. I mean, we wouldn't hire them, but you spread it around to all of them. So in surveying, we have 4 or 5 surveyors on our list. Soil testing, we have significant amount too. Traffic engineering, we have 2. So a lot of areas that you can actually add that so that we're not at a deficiency because the consulting industry is overwhelmed by their workload. Services, and then there's services that were legally required to be performed by a third party. We're kind of forced into a situation to hire someone else to do that. Audit services, we can't do them internally. We need external audit services for the financial services department. Our USA program, we're forced to participate in the program and have to sign up with them, and we have a vendor that actually handles that paperwork. MPDS program, the Regional Water Boards program for on-site inspections, we're forced to participate in that program. So there's some things that you do actually have to go out and secure a vendor that you cannot necessarily do it on board. Other facts, we found that this provides the best opportunity to get best pricing for the city because a lot of these are solicited out RFP, formal RFP, depending on the amount. And it's more efficient for the workforce to get work done. Graffiti is a prime example of something that we started trying doing in-house. The city's demand was that it wasn't going to be once every 2 weeks or once a month we'd hit the graffiti. It was we want it done in 24 hours. Well, when our work crews come in and they're set for work and the limited staff we have and the equipment, you can't stop them, go take care of this graffiti, and then get back into the mode of doing whatever work they were assigned that day. So it was more practicable, and you'll find several agencies do this, more practicable, more efficient, cost beneficial, and you have someone doing this every day, so the color matches are like almost perfect. It works. It makes financial sense. So in your packets, you got a taste of what the contract tracker spreadsheet is, and I put the first page there just as the prop, so just so everyone knows there is a document with 8 pages, and it represents all the departments and divisions of the city that are using some form of contracts, and it can even be expanded. It's a living document. It can be expanded to other areas because you know, you can even look at software being a contract-based type item that we use on a day-to-day basis. The contract spreader worksheet columns consist of column, agreement, start date, all the way down to contract. So it gives all the pertinent information for that document. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. So,
I'm good, I'm fine.
When you look at that contract tracker you have now, there's 97 contracts in there that are active. And in us producing this document, it's like, where do we stop? Because, like I said, there's software contracts, there's agreements, but really your core is about 97 contracts. It represents about $5 million worth of contract value. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to spend all that money. Every department's going to live within their budget. These contracts are not to exceed, but let's say we have multiple contracts for like surveying or materials testing. You have to give the vendor costs that they could maybe expect that year so that he can actually give you a price on a proposal. Because there's a big difference if he knows he's got $50,000 work or $10,000 work or $100,000 of work. So you have all these, and some years we'll go to the not exceed price. And in that same year, other vendors, we're not even using hardly anything of what we engaged the contract with. Contract tracker is a living document. It's a work in progress. By compiling this document, we're already seeing that there's places where we can improve. It's updated continuously as contracts awarded, expired, updated. Each department keeps track of its contractors, and it basically assists in our efforts to do our city services that we provide, and individual departments and individuals complete their job duties. Just note that the contracts are in Laserfish, which is the official repository of records managed by the city clerk. This list does not include the one-time projects that you approve. Typical is our CIP and large bid-out public works projects and large bid-out maintenance projects. So you're not going to see Date Palm Drive rehabilitation, Landau McCallum on this list. You're also not going to see large maintenance projects where you've actually authorized a single vendor to do a one-time job of a roofing job. Fountain of Life fencing won't be on there because those are one-off capital improvement projects that were either bid out or RFP'd out. Mainly for service, the list is mainly for service contracts utilized regularly or as an on-call service upon as needed. So the goal of this spreadsheet is really assembles the information. This is our ultimate goal. We have compiled it to get a handle on what every department's doing and where can we see and track where things needed to be done, and maybe where departments can meld together individual vendors and just get one vendor to be working citywide. This assembles the information also with the Tyler Munis. We haven't hit the tip of the iceberg of what the new ERP Tyler Munis system can do, upload, hold. And so we're already seeing that this will help out with all this information uploaded, bid management, contract management, requisition purchasing, accounts payable, asset management. Financial services, it really is going to assist the procurement officer in his daily activities, seeing where all the contracts are. And our 24-25 goal is to better manage and update expired contracts because they're right in front of us now. It's not haphazard, thrown in different places. It's all in one place so we know what's coming up and what's expiring. The fiscal impact, essentially it's within the fiscal approvals of each department's budget, and everything's followed in the city's municipal code, contracts of purchasing, so that's how we secure the vendors. And that's the end of my presentation. Mr. Mayor, back to you.
Thank you. I'm just picking something out here, like Conrad Angel Corral. It's a $50,000 contract, not to exceed. Does he submit an invoice and that's how he's paid, or?
And I requested a lot of the managers and department heads to be here to answer those specific ones that I didn't know about, so I'll let Ryan answer that one.
Yeah, he submits an invoice for each video project that he does. It comes out of our PEG account, and it's not going to come anywhere near $50,000.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted an explanation on it.
Yeah.
And then like I believe Palm Springs Tree Service, that could go, due to weather, that could be up 1 month huge because of palm trees falling down or something like that.
It is. And the skill set we've had is over the years in issuing out these contracts, such as either doing the landscaping and lighting districts, which have a specific budget, and or the services they provide for the city. We're pretty much on target on what we see the expenditures would be in an annual basis.
Okay, so are they sent out on the Palm Springs Tree Service, are they sent out on a job they just bill, or do they invoice you first and tell you this is what it's going to be to clean up this area? Or?
No, they have to do the work and then they submit the invoice, but it is per the contract rates as well.
Okay.
So there are certain things that we ask them to do at the rates that we agreed to in the original contract service, but then there's other areas that are specific they have a not to exceed amount to be paid in certain areas.
Okay. Thank you. This isn't working right now, so is there any council members? Yes. Is it working now? Councilmember Gregory.
Thank you.
Back up.
Thank you, John, for this. And this is a good first step. I see how you said it was a work in progress, so I can appreciate that. But I want to touch on a couple of things. One of them is you said one of the designations here is there's specialized low-cost contracts. But there's a lot of them that are marked here specialized services that aren't low-cost contracts. For example, janitorial would be a good one, and it doesn't look like it's not marked renew contracts soon. I do see a notation. Some of them do say something about even though it says no contract, it does say renewed annually or fiscal year 25. So could you kind of go over what that means when we see that in the chart?
Well, if this is, I'll hold Kevin at bay. We did talk about that, and from the financial services area and facilities, there's a lot of contracts or areas that that's their fiscal year 24-25 goal, is to start going out with RFPs and converting back into something similar that basically I'll just say Public Works and Engineering have led the way on just issuing out RFPs for. So if you want to add to that, Kevin.
I would just echo, I think exactly what John said, that these are areas of growth that we have, that in certain areas throughout the city, some of these contracts have just been renewed annually or have just been ongoing. And so it is the goal, and what the department finance, for the example that you gave, is looking at any of these that have not been bid out in a long time to come up with an RFP to bid out those services.
So some of those big ones that we see,
So the example of custodial.
Janitorial is a big one, but there are many others, you might say, air conditioning, security, those kind of things, which, just intuitively, there are competitors out there, yet it's not showing that there's that there's been a contract gone out for bid or anything like that. So just because it says no contract specialized services, it doesn't mean that that's not an area that there's a realization that we need to make a goal in the next, as soon as possible, to start contracting for those, or at least put them out for bid.
That column kind of explains the current status, and then in most of those you'll see either an expired contract or a new contract for 2025.
Okay, well,
so
that's what that notation means, that it's already been recognized. Look at it, and I see not a lot of them, but there's a few, and one of them that sticks out is like the Konica Minolta. It's great that those are all listed because they're probably individual contracts for individual copier machines. But then when you see it specialized low cost, but then you see 15 of them, it makes you think, well, hopefully somebody then is, and I do see that one's also notated fiscal year 25, that would say, well, although they're individually not necessarily great big contracts as a lump, there should be at least some, I would think, some review of whether there's competition out there, so that when machines the contracts run out, that we look at, are there other machines that are, beneficial in a financial way to the city, so that we're being good stewards of the taxpayer money.
Councilmember Gregory, you're seeing what we're seeing, and this provided a beneficial tool that we all looked at it And all the departments were going, oh, you got
And I'm
that
not
one,
being
you got
critical
that one.
because
So it works.
because it's sometimes painful to take this kind of look and say, oh, okay, but you do have to have the look. I'm just trying to hear that, and what I'm hearing is that staff is recognizing that it's revealing items, it's revealing things that will need to then be evaluated and a decision made about going out to RFP or contract or some type of a cost review process.
Exactly.
And I think now that we have a dedicated procurement agent in-house, it will also help facilitate that. That wasn't something that the city has had before. And so, I mean, as John had mentioned, Public Works, this is their day-to-day business. And so of all the departments in the city, they are most active in the contracting process and the bid process. What this data allows us is that opportunity to really do a full agency assessment and see, where we haven't gone out to really rebid those services or really look at what our requirements are for those services. And so I think it's going to give each of the departments, where appropriate, the opportunity to really look at what are the service levels we're getting, what do we really need, is that sufficient, what are services that we might need to add on, and really put that out to compete for it so that, if a current contractor hasn't had to bid that in a while, it gives them an opportunity to really sharpen their pencils and look at, are they still providing the best service for the city and being competitive?
Saying, I add 5% every year, and then whether that's realistic or market-driven or not. One last thing. So there's a lot of things that are included in here, but I bet there's a lot of things that aren't. And one thing that sticks out to me is that, and we've talked about, and I think it was part of the discussion when we actually had talked about having a purchasing agent like we should, and we had in policy, is that there are items that you commonly see purchased from different departments, but they're from different vendors. And there may be reasons occasionally for that, because maybe something is specialized. One of them I always say is signs and banners, printing. I don't see printing on here anywhere, and it's not unusual to see on the demand register, that Communications and Events, of course, did some printing. The police department made some signs. They did some printing. Public Works made some signs or did some printing, or a mailer, or other departments, and so is there a process in place that we're actually going to look at areas where there's substantial amounts of money spent across departments, but there hasn't been a contract?
Well, that's what this is for, to look at that. And I can tell you right now, I just realized there was one that we didn't put Underground Logic, which is a required vendor. It's low cost. It's like $400 a year that we have to use with USA. That'll go on here. There's a lot of one-off, like you said, signs. Those are dealt basic with vendors, pretty low cost, and they're not used on a normal basis. What we were looking for here, and those can go on there. We just got to see where we start getting into the minutia of, you bought this one thing from one person once every 5 years, and is that going to be?
Well, that's a balance, right?
Right.
It may be minutia the way it is now because everybody's using different vendors. We even see different vendors for things like city shirts and things like that. It may not add up to a lot, or it might, in uniforms and those types of things. And I don't see that on here, and that's something that we see in the demand register. So I guess what my request would be, or I'm asking, is if it's already something that's planned, is somebody at some point going to go through the demand register or those types of things and say, hey, here's some pretty similar things, and this may be part of what you're assigning to the purchasing agent.
Correct.
These are some similar things. You can just go back a fiscal year and you can kind of see that. You can say, okay, yeah, they're different, but they only added up to $1,000 in the year. It may not be worth the time to concentrate on that. These ones are different, like printing, but if you added them all up, they added up to a substantial amount of money. And again, there could be reasons why some of them were very specialized, and so they needed to go to particular ones. But my guess would be there's going to be some things that at some point it's going to be, well, we actually do this enough that we should have a preferred vendor that we've done some price competition with, and it may be a list of 2 or 3, but that we, because this is what really gives value of this, as you guys know. I'm not, you guys know why you're doing this, but those are the kind of things when you identify things that haven't been caught before, it can add up to real savings and give a list where vendors are responsive for giving us a good price and a good quality and those things because we're using the same ones or the same group of ones over and over again.
And it can morph to, we can add all that. That's not a challenge. I mean, the list is going to get long because I even mentioned software, continual purchasing requirements that we have to maintain the software, which sometimes you can't get out of the software using like Adobe Acrobat.
And that's a good example of something that can be very specialized.
Right. So that can go on there. And so what you touched on, we're going to expand the list. This is a great tool that we're going to put into the city's purchasing officer's lap and say, go with it. And our responsibility as the rest of the city staff is to make sure it's updated because we're going to have this document on a OneDrive document. It's already on a OneDrive document where everyone can input. So it's alive every day.
And I think, Councilmember, I think the scope of this project didn't address that issue. So it was really looking at those kind of existing service kind of contracts. But certainly that is an area that I think now that we have additional capacity that we can look at and looking at certain categories of types of expenses to see, do we use multiple vendors? Does it make sense to bid that out and have a preferred vendor? I think other areas where I think the city has already done things like that is like in office supplies, having, Amazon or Staples or other kind of contracts that are standardized. So it isn't, well, I really like the pens from this company, so I'm going to go buy them here. And you just have already kind of pre-bid or pricing that's available to everyone, and citywide is using those vendors for those kinds of purchases. But definitely is probably room that we can look at other areas to see are there other areas of those kind of expenses that are done in each of the departments, and maybe right now they're each using vendors that they're accustomed to, but we could look at it more from a citywide lens to get the best value for all departments.
All right. Well, and thank you and finance and the purchasing agent and everyone for getting this far. And I think I thank you for showing it to us because it does to me show that there are some areas that we can improve, and I think all of us want to be able to respond back to our taxpayers that we represent, that when they say they don't have confidence or they wonder whether the city is, managing the money well. And I think this is purchasing is a very important tool to be able to come and say, yes, we have processes in place that we are actually using, that we are working on and reviewing all the time to make sure that when we do use your taxpayer dollars, that they're going to something where the city is getting a good price and good value back. So I do appreciate it.
The other thing that I wanted to just emphasize also that John had mentioned is the utilization of Munis and the procurement modules to track this. So while this is kind of a living document, what is happening is all of this information about these contracts, these agreements are going into the procurement module so that staff will be able to have an agreement that authorizes the expenses, can create the PO from it, can track the expenditures to it, and then also can send reminders to the departments if an agreement is coming due so that they can get, if there was a renewal that needs to be processed, it can be done in advance of the expiration. So that automation is also happening on the finance side with the help of the departments, this was a really collaborative effort of all the departments getting this information just kind of globally together. And finance and the procurement team are really working to automate this so that this is something that lives within the system, that it's connected to all of the financials when payments are made, and can better track expenditures towards these contracts. So that's something that finance has really been taking the lead on, and it's just another effort of that automation and professionalization of these kind of services.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lamb?
I don't have any question, especially in light of this very, very detailed, good conversation, but I just want to thank you for doing this because I'm one of those chart people and I like to see it in my head. And this really put it together for me, the kinds of expenses in each department that, we need outside vendors for. So this was, I thought, absolutely brilliant. And it was just a couple days ago, sitting in the air conditioning, clicking the TV, and there's this app that people can get, and basically it tracks their magazine subscriptions and gym memberships and automatic payments and lots of streaming devices, things that they've kind of forgotten about that they're paying monthly, and how to look at that and make decisions about what do we want to do going forward with their family's finances. So this was just a brilliant thing. It's the same thing, but like Councilman Gregory says, and everybody agrees, this is not our money. This is taxpayer money, and we want to use it wisely and make sure they're getting the biggest bang for their buck. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Very much. Any other questions, Councilman?
Do we have two different contracts with Palm Springs Tree Services, or was it just listed in two different?
No, and you're correct. And we're looking to remedy that to make sure that the services that the facilities department with their parks and facilities can line up with what we're doing in Public Works. So that's another one of the goals, and that is exactly what we discussed. Councilmember Gregory brought it up, is where there are opportunities to streamline this and look at it. And once again, you see what you saw was put right in with everyone else doing their things. We saw the same thing on certain areas, and that was one of them. So we're going to commit to really analyze that and see if we can blend the contract and see if we can get better value when we bid it out. Obviously, it's more attractive when there's more work to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Public comments?
I don't have any requests to speak forms, Mayor, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment on this item, please raise your hand.
Thank you. This is a presentation only for discussion and direction only. There's no formal action required. Mr. City Attorney, will you please read the closed session items?
I'd be happy to do that, Mayor. We have two conferences with your real property negotiator this evening. Your real property negotiator is Assistant City Manager Ann Ambrose for both of these items. The first property is approximately 1.8 acres. I believe it's commonly referred to as the Festival Lawn. The second property is described as 68-025 and -105 Kyle Road, Cathedral City, California. On both of these items, the parties under negotiation are listed in the agenda, and as always, it's price and terms that we'll be discussing. Unless there are any members of the public who want to comment specifically on either of these items, then you can recess into closed session.
Thank you very much. We'll now close for closed session.
Okay. I gotta run down there. I'll be down there in a minute.